Hi, I'm Cassie Alexander, and I'm here to show you what I believe to be the best translation software on the planet for fiction authors. It's called Project Arachne, and it is a software of my own design. I made it because it needed to exist in the world for me, and now I'm sharing it with all of you. So let me talk just a brief bit about what you will need to work with Arachne. You will need API keys. I'm going to show you my API keys so you kind of know what they are. Don't worry, I'm going to swap these out. Any AI that you use, because Arachne does use AI, this is an AI translation software. Any AI that you use can tell you how to get these API keys from both Anthropic and OpenAI. You will need API keys from both of them. And the reason that you're doing that is because Arachne talks to frontier models. And the API key is basically like the lock-in key that charges you for your translation and for all the editing and other rounds of stuff that we do, which I'll show you in a second. Please don't be frightened by this. It's not that big a deal. Again, any AI can talk you through it. And the upshots of you using your own keys, this is called like a BYO key situation, which in minor technological speak means a bring your own key software, means that you are getting charged market rate for your usage. So there's no subscriptions, there's no hidden fees. You are literally getting charged what the providers want to charge you. And with that said, let's get rolling. Okay, let me share my screen share. All right. So when you come to Project Arachne, let me move everything around because I want you guys to see exactly what we're getting charged here along the way. When you come to Project Arachne, this is going to be the first page that you go to, and then you're going to have the opportunity to open the app. I do charge $50 per book slot for Arachne, which is amazingly reasonable for everything, all the goodness that I'm about to show you. So hang tight. Before we start, one last thing, I want to show you where we are for my money on my side so that you can see what we are using along the way. So let's find, where is it? Usage. Okay, great. So right now you're looking at the back end of my Claude account, which is Anthropic. So we're going to track that starting value. It is $37.20 because we are going to watch us spend a little bit of money to translate the short story that I'm going to have us translate coming up. I also want you to see that I haven't run any other runs today. So that was 16th. Today is the 17th, right? It is. Yeah. Okay. So anything that goes into this column is going to be what we will have done. Same over here on the OpenAI back end. We're starting there at 32.83. And I did a little bit of work yesterday, just $4 worth of work, basically, no work today. So everything that Arachne does, you're going to be able to see. And at the end of this experiment, we're going to be able to tell you what you would have spent on this project yourself and both what you would have spent on. And then from there, you can do the math on what it would have cost you to run the project on your own. Okay. So now we are coming to the actual app itself. So Project Arachne was born out of a strong desire on my part to make sure that I got the most accurate and best translations for my books possible. I had received a particularly poor French translation that I'll come back to later. Actually, let me remind myself to talk about that. Let me put in French. And then I also got some bad monster translations. So I was dealing with some really edge cases about tentacles and stuff, and the fact that spiders are like feminine in Italian. And so, but unfortunately, I had a spider monster who's the protagonist of one of my books. And so that translation was bogus. I wanted to develop a software that would work for me, that would make sure that everything I translated from then on would be as perfect as it would be possible for it to be. And so this is a hair club for men situation, right? I not only am like the person who developed it, but I'm also a user of it. All right. So I want to go ahead and upload a new book. And so we're going to do this here. Jack and Paco bonus scene. So I'm going to say Jack and Paco bonus scene. All right. So you have the option here to say it's a corrected or replaced manuscript version because sometimes when you do a copy edit, you're going to find out, oh my gosh, I called this I called this character in this book three different things. It's ridiculous. I need to correct my original file. And Arachne asks you at every step of the game to confirm what you are doing. And that is because yours truly has accidentally translated a book into the wrong language before. So at every stage, Arachne tries to help you not spend your money on things that you don't want. And also, Arachne will fail loudly, which is a feature, not a bug. So if anything were to go wrong, Arachne will just tell you. It will just stop, put the ball down, and walk away. I'm not going to spend your money unless everything is copacetic. So I get to tell it that this is a dark romance short story. And the reason you put this in is just so Arachne has a little bit of a vibe going into it, so it knows what to expect, and it just helps. And the manuscript spelling style is something that one of my beta authors asked for. I think they're Australian, and so they wanted to make sure that we didn't take out all of their U's. I'm just going to say preserve what I uploaded, but you can use any of these here that you want. And then here's one of the special things about Arachne is that, and this is actually what you're actually paying me for, in addition to the thousands of hours of my life I used to code this and the 5 figures worth of compute I used to test it, is these project files. So these project files, once you build your dossier, which we are going to go through and do, Arachne will keep those, and you can add books in your series, and Arachne will remember what decisions we made for the first book, what decisions you made for the second book, what translation lessons we got along the way. And so it knows, it just maintains a deeper knowledge and understanding of your book and your goals, and it makes your final translations better, basically. That's basically what it boils down to. So it's not starting each translation just out of the box. Your first translation in a series, yes, it's not going to have any context, but after that, everything becomes additive, and I will store that information for you so that you can access it here. So I've got some options here because I've done a bunch of different of my own books. I'm just going to toss this into the dark ink tattoo extras because that's what this is. And translation lessons, save with the series name. You'll get the option to save them later. So you're not only saving the components of your dossier, which you're going to see me build, but we also save the translation lessons that we got along the way. If you translate into a particular language and then you decide, okay, we're only going to use this particular phrase for this particular thing, then it's going to remember that as time goes by. All right. Do you want to run a copy edit pass before a setup? Almost always, yes, you do. And the reason for that is, coming up here to get my Anthropic key. The reason for that is, I think I don't want to accidentally get a space in there and not have it work. The reason for that is, gosh, all you guys are pro authors. We have all had, and I'm going to have to come up here and reconfirm that this is the right book. So let me just do that so this is running. The reason for that is we've all had that overzealous reader report us to KDP for having some sort of minuscule error in our book. It's just easier to run a copy edit on your book because you would be really surprised at what it is that Arachne will find. Just so you know, it's not using the big guns for this because grammar is grammar all over. It's just using Sonnet something in the background, Sonnet 4.5, I think. And when they downgrade that, I will go ahead and just flip it up to the next level because it doesn't need to think super hard about grammar. And so there's no reason for us to pay the most for that. And we're going to find out that this in and of itself is very cheap. And right now we're occupying one of 8 model slots is us. So the second model slot is actually one of my beta users. And my beta users have been cranking books out on Arachne, which I love. I'm so proud of Arachne and I'm so happy for them. In fact, oh my gosh, this morning one of my beta users was all like, how can I send you money? And I was like, I don't know, but I give them my PayPal and they sent me $1,000 because with Arachne, I have helped them make far more than that. And they know how hard I've been working on this because they're a member of my Substack, which is AI marketing for storytellers. So they've seen all the background work that's been going into this project for the past 7 months of my life. And so, yeah, so that was really charming and exciting for me, and very much proof of concept, hopefully for you all as well. So what's happening right now too is, as the copy edit is occurring, it is thinking about breaking the short story that I gave it, which is about 6,000 words, into chunks. Those are represented by the letter CH from here on out when we look at how we upload things. And I'll show you that in a second when we get there. But those chunks don't equal chapters. So don't worry. The short story does not have 6 chapters in it. Basically, the chunks are the smallest manageable unit. Here we go. Let's just see. It's actually, so chunks are the smallest manageable unit that I send back and forth to the providers so that I can guarantee that you get the best quality outcome with your translation. Because if you send too much in, things will degrade. And so that's why I've done such extensive testing with this program to make sure that I can always maintain the potential for the optimal translation that you can have. So let's look at this optional copy edit pass. Review copy edit changes. All right. So it's going to normalize my ellipsis spacing. It's going to take out the hyphen in crosshatch to crosshatch for standard compound form. Some more ellipsis things. Corrected wasn't going to be, or wasn't going be to wasn't going to be. And this is like a rough draft story. I sent it because I did want a lot of examples for you. Removed incorrect pronoun repetition. I feel really solid about all of these. Fixed typo, feeing to feeling. That's fantastic. All right. Good thing that this is yeah, good thing that's just a bonus scene and hasn't gone out into the world. So I accepted that copy edit pass. I have the option to in here. I think I actually did it automatically download. It automatically downloads your copy edit, so that's yours. You've always got it. I'm not interested in keeping you from the sauce. And then it's tagged source chunks already. So let's go up here. So now you can see, we know where we're at. We know what project we're in. 6 chunks, 6,100 words. Let's go and see how much money that's spent. So I know we only called on Claude. So let's see. So we went from $37.20 to $36.98. And that feels pretty accurate to me. Again, because it's using a cheaper model, because grammar is really chill. And then let's see how many tokens we use. Let me hard refresh this screen and see if they come up. Sometimes there's a lag too. Ooh. So there we go. Tiny tokens, about 26,000 tokens, which is no big deal. Okay, great. Let's get back to Arachne. Now, what I want to do is I want to create a style sheet, a glossary, voice profiles, and canon fact sheet. This is a large part of Arachne's secret sauce. I'm going to put in my Anthropic key again, and I'm going to generate this. And I'm going to generate this. And I'm going to generate this. These aren't additive, so I can just generate them all at once. Now you'll notice here, because I'm running 4 jobs, and actually one of those probably finished or will finish soon, or maybe my beta person's book finished, I have 4 of 8 model slots. What happens is Arachne is hosted on a virtual server. So if you start a project and all the model slots are busy currently, that's fine. Arachne takes your information and will run it as soon as slots become available. So you can close this tab, you can close your computer, you can walk away. You can do this late at night so that you can wake up to a draft in the morning. And that is just how it works. The flip side of that, though, is because I am not processing your credits. You are using a direct API key connection to the provider. The downside of that, and it's only a tiny downside, is if you were like, oh my gosh, I'm translating the book that only has 5 finals in the title, and I wanted to do the one with 6 finals in the title, if you title your books like mine, then you would need to go into the back end over here and you would need to cancel that API key. So that's definitely something that you could do if you wanted to. And yeah, let's get back to usage over here. And we haven't used anything OpenAI because all of this right now is pulling from Anthropic because according to my tests, I determined that was the better one for pulling out the feels. Okay, so it looks like our glossary is done and our canon facts are done. Let's go through those. So for the glossary, it wants you to come in here and set things up. And it's important that you do a good job at this because this is what it's basing its future translation of this book on. So in here, every time basically you have a character, concept, organization, creature, anatomical thing, slang, or whatever that seems important, Arachne's going to pull it out for you and it's going to say, hey, this is what I think about this. What should we do here? And so it's saying Jack's the narrator and protagonist. He's a vampire living in Vegas who has a romantic relationship with Paco. Sounds great. It also gives you options for gender over here. And you're going to want to make sure that you use these and that they are appropriate because many languages have strong gendered feelings. Not to say that you can't get around those, but you need to make sure that Arachne knows what you want. And then if your character is gender fluid, then you can put in a note and Arachne will do its best to know when they are presenting as femme or masculine, or however else you decide that they need, because Arachne is for all fiction. So it can be they can have any gender that you wish for them to have. And then Paco here, he's got a character. Okay, that's great. He's the only other person. This is just a short story. So I'm going to approve these selected glossary rows because those work for me. And then I'm going to look at my style sheet. And you can do these in any order. So the style sheet is Arachne talking to itself about what it's thinking that your short story is about. In general, I have found that it does a really solid job of this, but it is good for you to go through and look at. So it's like first person past tense, deeply interior. The gap between what Jack says aloud and what he thinks is a core structural feature. Agreed. It talks about emotional depth, rhythm, distance, humor, register. It gets very thorough because Arachne at every step of the game wants to do the best it can in every language to transmit your whatever goal the fiction that you give it had across. It's trying its hardest. Again, this is a program for authors by an author. I needed this to be solid for me. And so I needed it to be as thoughtful as possible. So let's see. Recurring world-specific concepts, things. He dies at dawn because he's a vampire. That's great. Genre conventions. Yeah, all this looks fantastic. I'm just going to go ahead and save it. I could go in here and edit it though if I want. This is a live document. If I decided I needed to clarify something or add something else in, I could. Approve project style sheet. And let's approve the canon facts and do the voice profiles last. So canon facts basically is just making super sure we've got everybody's eye color down. And so for Jack, they say he has fangs that can retract. He doesn't always need to breathe, mostly immortal, hair long enough for someone to run fingers through. I probably don't say that his hair is brown in there, but this is where it keeps track of all that stuff for itself. And then it's got locations and the cabin that they're going to, world rules, apparently in 6,000 words. I go through a lot of vampiric world rules and terminology. Okay, so I'm going to approve these. And then let's look at the voice profiles. This is probably the most secret of the secret sauce that helps Arachne perform better than everything else out there. So basically, it breaks down on an intense level how your characters interact with each other. And so that future translations can do their best to replicate that level of intimacy or whatever other characterizations your characters have. So here, formality shifts, casual deflecting, dominant commanding, vulnerable earnest, humor style, primarily dry and self-deprecating with a strong vein of dark humor, signature phrases, what makes this voice unique? Jack's voice is defined by the tension between control and surrender. Yeah, so this is super fantastic. And then it's going to do the same thing for Paco here. And then what makes this voice unique? Paco is defined by strategic vulnerability. So yeah, I love all of this. So approve voice profiles. All right, so now I'm going to hit locked dossier and it's going to build my final dossier from all of those. Let's go back now to our friend Claude and see how much money we spent doing that. Let me do a hard refresh on this screen so that you can see. Okay, so the dossier appears to have taken us, and again, it may be lagging by $1 or $2, but it's not going to lag by $20. These are relatively light calls and not too hard for the AIs to do, especially because this is such a short book. It will cost subsequently more, but we'll do all the math for how much things cost later. Okay. So now we are going to pick which language we want to translate it into. And I'm going to pick a language I have not translated it into before. So I'm going to clear all languages. These are all the languages that I have. And I'm going to pick Italian because I don't think I've translated it into Italian yet. You have the option here to translate one test chunk. If you do, you can just pick. I know I have 6. I could pick chunk 3. If you want to test to see how much something is going to cost before you launch into a big thing on a full book, I completely understand. I would suggest that you pick a chunk from the second or third chunk or something that's maybe more in your book than that right at the intro. Oh, but that brings up a great point. When you give Arachne a docx to work from, make sure that you don't have any ancillary material on it, because if you have the first chapter of the next book in the series and stuff, that's going to get translated too, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but it may not be what you want. Make sure that you've cleared out any baggage at the front or baggage at the back that docx might have so that you just have your book there if that's what you want. Just do it with awareness is what I'm saying. But I don't want to translate one test chunk because I want you guys to see the whole shebang. So we're going to translate a chunk range. And so when you translate a chunk range, it's just going to start at the beginning or wherever you tell it to start, and it's going to go through to the end. So let me get that rolling because that is going to take a hot minute. And the boxes that I'm checking are just basically reminding you about things that I just already said. So it's going to go from the beginning to the end. It's going to do Italian. I know that I'm using my own provider keys and that I'm going to be billed by Anthropic and all for those, Anthropic and OpenAI on their sites. And that once I start this translation, Arachne cannot stop it. If you want to turn it off, you go and turn the API keys off, which is not a hard thing to do. So let's get that going and give it a second to accept it. Boom. Okay, so now it's translating it, and now I can keep talking. You have the ability in here to change the model. Honestly, I did the bulk of my testing with Claude Opus 4.6, and so that's what I have left as the default model. Frankly, because when 4.8 came out, I was pretty caught up and I didn't want to do additional models with you guys that I hadn't tested personally. And I do feel that 4.6 does do a good job. And then 4.8 was only out for 6 weeks because in the AI world, things have been moving at light speed, and then Fable came out and then Fable got taken away. So I'm going for stability because they're not going to take 4.6 away or do anything weird with it. But you are welcome to jump up to 4.8 if you want. It's up to you. It's not a big deal. And frankly, 4.8 may be blazing and amazing. It's just if you have any experience with using AIs, you will know that sometimes things can be variable. And while we're waiting for this translation to run, let me talk more about that, actually, how variable things can be and why I've made some of the decisions that I have made with Arachne. I had my Romantasy series translated into French at great cost to me, and the woman who translated it did French has different tenses, and those tenses are voices, and some of them are more archaic than others. She happened to use an archaic voice for that romantasy. When she did that, it worked because it was romantic, courts, castles, kings, that sort of thing. But then I had her translate the series that this bonus scene is actually from, which is a high heat romp in Vegas with vampires and underworld stuff. And she used that same high old French to translate it into. And I always wondered, gosh, I spent so much money on this translation. Why isn't this selling anything? And it wasn't until I picked up a different French editor later who was like, yeah, this is perhaps the worst translation I've ever seen. And I was like, oh, oh my God. So I know a lot of people want to extol the virtues of human translation, which I do agree, human translation can be fantastic. And I'm not 100% down with AI translation from one AI, and I'll explain to you a little bit about how Arachne works in a second. The thing is that every time you are getting a translation in a language that you don't speak personally, you are basically putting yourselves at the mercy of either that person or that AI model. And so one of the things that Arachne tries to counteract, because if you've worked with AI at all for long enough, you will note that over time conversations will drift and AIs can definitely get lazy. It's not that they get lazy, but they regress to the mean unless they are forced not to. And so one of the things that I built in with Arachne was it basically is an iterative recursive translation machine. So it is continually checking itself and it is pitting both of those models against one another repeatedly. And the reason that it's doing that is because if I gave all of my book to one model to do, it would get lazy and it would be like, "Brr, brr, brr, I'm just going to do one thing." And also, too, you would only be getting a book on the far end that was representative of what that model could do, and it wouldn't have been pushed to greatness or to glory. Whereas with my system, if you cage match them against each other, they try really hard because they're fantastic editors. And so you wind up getting a translation that is much more faithful to the tone and intent of the original because everything that it does is questioned, but it's not questioned too much. Translation is an art, and AI translation is also an art because you don't want to run like it's if you were to run Arachne 4 times on the same book just over and over and over, eventually you would sand down everything that made it magical and fun and beautiful. So that's my goal with Arachne is to have it be recursive and iterative enough that it has moments of true beauty and makes good choices and argues with itself about what those good choices are and arbitrates those things. And that is what makes Arachne special, frankly, been different from everything else that's out there. So it's this is the best. It just is. As far as things that are out currently, and unless Fable rolls back up on our laptops, whereupon nobody will be more happy than me. But as for frontier models that we're going to get access to right now, this is the best way to do it. And you can translate a chunk or a few chapters or a short story of yours or your first chapter and compare it and contrast it with other products that are out there. And I think you're going to find that Arachne wins every time. In addition to the fact that when you use Arachne, again, you get that series knowledge where it's basing. So if I were to go on and do additional books in a series, it would be like, oh, okay, here we have your original voice profiles, but you entered in a third point of view character or a fifth point of view character. Because all of those elements from your dossier wind up going in with your translation. And yes, that has a slight token cost, but it creates quality. And that's what I've been hunting for this entire time with Arachne. And that's why one of my beta users literally just dropped $1,000 into my PayPal this morning, is I'm not on a race to the bottom. I am trying to get the best translation possible out of Arachne for me, and then sharing it with you all. So let's see where we're at. Go back to screen sharing. And oh no. Is it sharing? Is it sharing? Is my sharing on? My screen. There we go. Okay, great. I don't know why it's misbehaving here. Let's see where we're at. Okay, it's still running. All right, so let me talk a little bit more then about what it is doing. And let me hop out of stop share mode till we're done. So on the far end of Arachne, you'll notice that I've made Arachne kind of self-serve in that you have to bring your own keys and use it. On the far end of Arachne, you are going to get what are called markdown files. And so I do not create EPUBs for you because I believe that anybody who uses Arachne should be AI savvy enough to do that for themselves. You can take those markdown files and give them to any AI and it will be able to create an EPUB for you quite easily. If it says it can't, it's lying. Just say you're a liar, bro. And it'll be like, oh yeah, let me find the skill and it'll do it. The reason I do that, though, is because I want you to be smart enough to use it judiciously. So, because even though Arachne is always going to try to do the best thing, it's not always going to. Let me share my screen. Sorry, guys, because I do want to keep track of things. It's not always going to know everything. So at the end of this, when we finish translating this short story, and while we're waiting for the tokens to percolate so we can figure out how much money we spent, we're going to have an opportunity for what's called manual review. Manual review is because I built into Arachne a stage where it wants you to help it define relationships that it had questions about. Those relationships can be the relationship between a person and a place, a person and another person, etc., etc. I did this because so many other languages treat relationships as important, honorifics in a lot of Asian languages, and also in Arabic. And even at all of that, I found out when I was translating my Dragon Shifter series into Chinese, when I was translating it, I wanted to, the manual review at the end was like, hey, is this character older or younger than this other character? And I was like, they're twins, they're twins, they're twins. I answered that question 40 times and I was like, something's wrong here. And you'll see that Arachne actually gives you its thoughts on these manual review things, whether or not it's like an actual thing that needs review or something that got flagged in error. What happens is in Chinese, you do not have somebody who's just like a brother or a sister. By context, every time you say the words brother or sister, it's always older brother, older sister, younger sister. And so I didn't know that going in. And when I approved my voice profiles and my glossary and everything else, I didn't give it any inclination. I was just like, they're twins, but yet it still wanted to default to this older, younger sibling state. And so when I saw that come up in the manual review phase, I was like, oh, this is important. So I took that markdown file that I got, and I would have always had another AI look over it anyways, but I had it look over it and it was like, oh yeah, we biffed this one. We biffed it across 4 books. I was like, fair enough, let's fix it. And so we did. So I want you to do a little bit of work on your side because Arachne can get things about, I would say, depending 80% there. And I would say that's about as far as any AI software that's out there. Arachne is better than the rest, but 85%. But that last 15% might be something that Arachne doesn't know about or that I don't know about, as like I didn't know what the younger, older sibling thing. Or maybe there's one sentence in there that has like some English in it and stuff. So I don't want to give you a final EPUB and be like, yo, this is totally done, because frankly, it's probably not. And so it wouldn't be totally done though with any other system. And potentially not even having paid good money to humans to do it. And so that's why I don't give you EPUBs, because I want you to be involved in that final process and to have some thought. Because translation is an art form, and Arachne gets you the beauty and the idiom and the metaphor. It gets you the heat. It is not afraid of heat. You will never have to retranslate anything because of heat. I've never had anything denied. And so, yeah, let me go ahead and refresh this screen on the off chance that, are we done? Yes, we're done. Okay. Oh, preview latest chunk. No, it still is doing. It's on the 3rd of 6. Oh, I guess I can talk about this now, though. So it's done 3 out of 6 chunks here. And so and you can see that it's running. If it ever has anything that's errored, every once in a while there will be something that bounces, and that's just the foible of the system. But it's no big deal. You can wait till you get to the end, and then you can just rerun it. And Arachne will always skip chunks that have already been translated, ones that are green, and it'll go in and do the red one. Because every once in a while, sometimes you send in information and it just comes back a mess. But Arachne, again, will always fail loudly and make sure that you know that you need to rerun something. So, yeah, I am going to pause this so I can keep some of my voice, because I have another thing to show you guys, and I will come back when it is done. Oh, I don't want to just pause screen share. I want to pause recording. Okay, so we are down to the last chunk now, and I realized that I did want to talk to you guys about a little bit more about 1 or 2 more things while it's running. I wanted to talk more about API keys and to explain what I do when I do things on the internet, because I would never have known this existed if a friend hadn't told me, so I will be telling you guys. Let me share my screen. And this is just a genuine product endorsement. It's not anything that I get affiliate codes or anything from. Let me hop into here and I'll do it with you. So privacy.com is a site that lets you create single-use credit cards that you can either limit the amount, how much you spend on them over a month, or you can say that this credit card is only for that particular product. So basically, I have one here, GPT Ads, DigitalOcean, which is my virtual server, Amazon. And so I've got a bunch of cards which hopefully I'm not flashing you here. Great, that are just set up for different providers. And so I do this so that if anybody were to get my API keys, they would not have access directly to my bank account, and they wouldn't be able to just run off with things. So I know I'm going to cancel these API keys later, but I find it to be, I just feel better when everything that I do over here, definitely. So on my virtual server, the most it will ever spend on it is $300. And this fake credit card, which is based off of one of my existing cards, is, yeah, it's dedicated to DigitalOcean payments. So that's how I would do stuff if I were you, but just basically on the internet overall too, as fraud becomes more rampant. I feel a lot safer using these dedicated purpose-built one-time cards from privacy.com than I do other things. Okay, so we've got to be almost done with this. We're 5 out of 6. Hooray, we are done. So now we're going to do the final review. So the final review is, again, that relational pass. And all right, so let's see. The Italian Mastrati reflexive show yourself amidst the to me present in the source, which slightly generalizes the command. However, in the intimate two-person context, the meaning is largely implied, making severity ambiguous. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's just have Arachne fix that, because I can. And then this one, the translation omits what Jack always wants, leaving the vampire-specific reference to wanting to bite blood less explicit than in the source context. Why this needs eyes. The Italian lo velo, I can't say those, through context. Okay, so we're going to say that is probably okay. So I'm going to keep current translation with that. So let me go ahead and close. I've made those choices. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply my final review choices. And again, that does take money. So I'm going to come over here and grab my keys for this project, which I will delete immediately after making this video one more time. Okay. Apply final review choices, and that should be like literally a hot second because it's just 1 second. So once it's done, then I can get that markdown file that we discussed earlier. The markdown file that I would definitely take and give to any other AI. So yeah, you can download your clean markdown or you can download your tagged markdown. Tagged markdowns just have all my tags that I've got there. So yeah, you will have used Project Arachne to its fullest. Let me close this and let's go and look at our numbers, baby. So let's see where we're at. So let me refresh this screen and let me refresh the other screen so it can be brewing while we do stuff. 3510, do I believe that? Do I think it's all come through? Let me look at my tokens. I actually can see here in Arachne that translation took 60,000 tokens. So if we look over here at my usage and it represents 60,000 tokens plus the 25 tokens. Yeah. Yeah, that feels potentially right. Okay. Honestly, that's a lot more tokens than it said, but that's fine because it still is the amount we spend is teensy teensy. 3510. Over here, my usage is we used a whopping 74 cents. All right, and that sounds about right to me. I want to give, I'm going to pause this and give everything 30 minutes in case there's more, because I want to do the most precise math I can with you guys. I think we might be like just short $1 or $2. It's not going to be much though, but I want to show you guys literally what it costs on a word by word basis. So I'll be right back. Actually, I realized while we're waiting for those final pennies to trickle through, I could show you Unspice AI, which is my other passion project. You might have heard on the internet, you can make good money on YouTube with your audiobooks, and that is true. However, YouTube doesn't want your books to be over PG-13. In fact, they want them just to be PG. And so there's a lot of us who are writing on the edge with some of our work where you have a book that's strong enough, even if you do take out the high heat scenes, that you could put it up there. But actually doing that sucks because I did that for 8 audiobooks, which were like 10 and 12 hours long each. So doing that, I didn't listen to the whole thing. I would search and replace in the book and then I would listen, but it was awful and it took forever and it was just really stupid and pointless. Not pointless. It did wind up making me enough money to have earned out the effort that I put into it, but I remember thinking at the time, if there is ever an easier way to do this, I will do that. And so now I actually created that and I'm giving you guys the opportunity to do it too. So that's what Unspice.ai is. Unspice.ai will help you basically PG or PG-13ify your audiobooks. So let me pause this for a second and get an open slot. Basically, oh, I forgot to tell you guys. So for Arachne, I'm going to open up a Google Sheet. Everybody who is here is welcome to put themselves on it, and you will get one book slot for Arachne from me. So that is $50. And with Arachne, when you do that, you get, I will keep all of this. And then once you have your book slot, it's not $50 per translation, my friend. It's $50 just for the intake, for all the glossary and the profiles and everything. So once you have a book slot, you can come back to Arachne however much you might like with your own keys and just plug them in and run. And that's all. That's all you got to do. So for Unspice, it's going to be in real world money, $50, but I'm going to give you guys the same deal that we give the beta members of our Substack. This always costs money to run. in store and everything, so I can't get it cheaper than $10 for you, but you'll get one slot for this up to 10 hours. And you would have to pay additional for additional hours. Yeah, so look somewhere on this website. There'll be like a little thing for you. And then let me pause this for a second and get myself in the back end here. Okay, so I've made the back end of Unspice as easy as I can to use. And so all you have to do is drop in your audiobook. And so we're going to do three versions here for you. So we're going to do, oh, these are all the naughty ones. Let's do one audiobook that only has sexting in it. So that is something for it to take out. And so you get the option here to pick if you want PG-13 or if you want clean. And then you can put in the manuscript if you want, but it's not mandatory. So I'm going to have it go ahead and analyze this book. And it's going to take it a bit. I cannot promise or guarantee you that YouTube will find this perfect on the other side. I have a book that I believe is perfect that I did by hand that they decided that I should be demonetized on, and I haven't been able to change their mind on that. But other things they don't mind. It's their system is janky. However, I know that I made really good money when all of my 8 audiobooks were up with them. Yeah, so it's well worth doing. I think right now they lowered how many, it's either hours based or it is subscribers based as to whether or not you can get monetized on YouTube. Basically, it's one of those things that takes a while, so you just should start because it's not ever going to be like fast. I would, if you have, and if you have wide audiobooks, this is just another way to expand your monetization footprint. And I find that I treat these as commercials for the higher heat versions. It's really interesting. In the comments on YouTube, you'll see people who are, there's plenty hotter stuff than that on here, and they get cranky at you for having deleted scenes. But then they don't realize, I think you all might remember, like when Willow Winters got some big button or something from YouTube and for so many views, and then they realized she had all her high heat audiobooks up there, and then they banned her from YouTube. A lot of people fly under the radar, and the people who are listening don't necessarily know that some people are flying under the radar. And so sometimes they do get grouchy at you for posting the clean stuff. But then other people get mad at them in the comments and they're like, hey, it's a free audiobook. Just be chill, which props to that person. And there's many of those people. It's great. But also, you get people in the comments who come looking for clean audiobooks because they don't actually want the high heat stuff. And so they're like, oh, this didn't need any of the sex scenes at all. I really enjoyed it just the way it is. And so it's an interesting way to dabble in a market that you might not have ever had access to anyways, because you always write stuff with heat. At least you do if you're me. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, here we go. Dragons don't date. So this is just a really short novella. So it's just gonna remove this one little part here. So it's just gonna take out 2 minutes of audio to turn it PG-13. And so it's gonna remove 2 minutes from a 43-minute and 59-second long thing. And so you have the option here to replace it with a soft chime, a beat of silence, or just a hard splice. The chime is all a dong. It's just really quiet and subtle. It's not annoying. And then you can actually see what's cut. Oh, you guys won't be able to hear this, but you'll be able to, yeah, I can hear it in my speakers. Let me not do that though. So yeah, and then you'll be able to download it. Let me get the next one running. We are going to do now a slightly hotter audio because I want you guys to get the gist of how aggressive it can be and sometimes needs to be with my stuff. I'm going to make this really hot threesome thing clean. So we're going to let that run. So once this is done, I keep track of it for 7 days, and so you have 7 days to download it. After that, I'm going to delete it. The audiobooks are too big. And yes, I am using AI to listen to your audiobook and to find the explicit parts. If that bothers you, I am not the person for you to do this. However, if you have ever spent 8 to 20 hours of your life manipulating your own audio or paying somebody else to do it, then you will realize what a boon it is that I have coded this for you and me. So this one is going to be going for a while. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do the Julia Child thing. I'm going to pause this recording and we're going to come back when it is done because it's going to be a hot minute. Okay, so we're jumping back into Camping Trip, and as you can see, because of the heat level of this book and the fact that I asked for it to be clean, that Unspice removed an hour and 1 minute and 38 seconds of an hour 28 and 11-second audio file. So yeah, because apparently I have a 45-minute explicit group sex scene at the end. So there is that. So I'm not saying that I would post this on YouTube necessarily, but I just wanted you to see how crazy it could get. And then I want to show you guys one more thing. Let me pause this. Actually. Okay, so now we're gonna do my audiobook that is raunchy. It's alien schmecks. It involves ovipositors. It is next level. I want you to see, and we're going to ask for it to be clean here too. So I just want you guys to see that it has the ability to understand that when you use tentacles and things like that in a sexual fashion, that it will go ahead and take those out or offer you the opportunity to take those out. What's nice too, though, is that you can go through here and you can choose whether or not you want these. So say you're like, oh, I'm okay with masturbation. You can unclick that and it won't take it out of your final file. Or if I was like, hey, let's just take out everything up to my 45-minute sex scene, you can have that in there. So yeah, so we're going to let it do this one with the ovipositors and we'll see how things go with me. Let's check in. I've been checking over here on these to see if we've gotten like all of the everything. There we go. There we go. Now I believe that we are down to the last crumbs of usage. All right, because I want to do the final math for you guys for Arachne. So yeah, I now believe both of these numbers. Okay, so finished was 34.90. And then OpenAI is $1.36, and I believe that. So let's see what our actual final cost for running Arachne was. So 37.2 minus 34.9 equals 2.6. So when I got the numbers earlier on the back end, I was like, I bet there's a couple more monies to come out. 2.6 plus 1.36 equals 3.96. 3.96. And then 3.96 divided by 6,100 words is 8. And I am inclined to believe that it may be off by, it may bounce up to 0.0007 if there's any more tokens that are percolating through the system to count against us. But you can see this is ridiculously low cost per word. In case you're technologically inclined or pedantic, a word isn't exactly necessarily a token. It's okay. Some longer words take more tokens, some shorter words take less. It's all okay. It evens out in the wash. So let's say we translated a 50,000 word book. So that times 50,000 words would equal us spending $32.40. Or if we did 100,000 word book, keep the commas in there though to make it look sexy. It would wind up being $64.12 essentially. So yeah, the math is pretty mathin'. Basically, if you paid me for this book slot, that would be $50, and then you would get to translate your book as many times as you wanted with your own keys. So say you do German, it's 64.82. Say you do French, it's 64.82. Say you do Italian, it's 64.82. So you can mix and match and everything. You only pay me the $50 the one time. And then I keep all of your stuff for you. We have nightly backups of the server because I don't want my stuff to get lost, just as I do not want you to lose your stuff. And yeah, then it's going to be there for you to come back. So say you're just like, oh, I can only afford to do German this week, but I'll come back next week after I get paid, or I see if this even works. Then I can come back and do all of the other languages that Arachne offers, which are all down here. So I hope that you are impressed with Arachne, and then let's go and see if we have finished Unspice yet. Not quite. I'm going to pause this again while we wait. All right, I am back and it finished. And claspers, it's got it. Just you're gonna have to trust me that this is this has managed to find all of the smut in this short story. And once again, in a Cassie Alexander novella, it wants to take out 48 minutes of an hour and 23-minute long audiobook. You're gonna have to trust me that this is all involves monstery stuff. So yeah, it does. Oh, and then let me show you the easy. So I'm all done. You don't necessarily have to do this each time if you feel confident in your own tech, but I just want to show you guys how easy it is to go to API keys. These are the ones that I used for Arachne for your demo, and I'm just gonna delete that key that you guys saw, and boom, it's gone. And I don't have to worry about anybody else getting it from the fact that I've been showing it this whole time. And this is also to the very simple way where you go and I could create a new key here and it would ask me to name it, and then it would show me what I wanted. And yeah, so it's pretty chill once you get into the back end. So I hope you've enjoyed this loving demonstration of things that have irritated Cassie in the past and that she has developed software to overcome. And there's going to be some sort of sign up sheet on this page somewhere where you guys can go and get your one book slot of Arachne. And then you can also get 10 hours of Unspice for $10. That one you have to pay for because the way it's set up. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that these are also things that have bugged or irritated you that I have also helped solve for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be available for questions in the chat. Or you can always contact me at Cassie@CassieAlexander.com. I'm available for consultations because I like talking about AI quite a lot. And I also, with Novi Callum, we do a Substack called AI Marketing for Storytellers at Substack.com, which we get into all sorts of crazy stuff and we share all of our code back there. My betas all come from Substack. It's been amazing. And then you can also keep track of my work on CassieAlexanderStudios.com, which is where I'm a little bit braggy about my life goals. So it's probably the best place to keep track of me if you want to hear the crazy things that I'm working on. There's always 5 or 6 in progress. Thanks so much. Bye.